besties, welcome back to my book channel, and today we're going to be talking about the best audiobooks I have ever listened to in my entire life. If you guys have been watching my channel for a little while now, then you would know that this is actually part 2 in my audiobook recommendation series. And in part 1, there were just so many books that I wanted to talk about that I couldn't fit them all into one video. So we're here today with part 2, but if you're interested in watching part 1, I will link that video in the description box down below. And I will leave you with this. I want you all to know that I generally was the type of person for a long time where I didn't really like audiobooks. I just felt that reading physical books was always the best way to consume a book. And I think on the day-to-day and overall, that's definitely still the type of person that I am. I just love a physical read. But over time, I have grown to really love audiobooks, and I have found some audiobooks that I think just make the experience of that specific book so much better. So in this video, I'm actually going to be talking about books that I think are not only just incredible on their own, but the audiobook of that book actually made the whole experience of the story just so much better. And I recommend that you guys listen to these books instead of physically reading them. I also did have to refilm this entire intro because it was out of focus when I was editing this afternoon. So if the angle changes, that's why. But I think that's it from me. So let's talk about all of the audiobooks that you guys need to listen to immediately. The first book that I have to talk to you all about is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And last time I made this video, all of you guys were like, Olivia, you absolutely need to read/listen to Project Hail Mary, because I had not read this book yet. And so I was very intentional about reading this book partially physically, but also making sure that I listened to the audiobook. Like, I got the Audible subscription for this book. And I have to agree with all of you guys, the audiobook for this was stunning. In this book, we're following our main character, Ryland Grace, who wakes up at the beginning of the book. He doesn't know who he is, where he is, but he does figure out very quickly that he is on a spaceship flying through the galaxy, and he doesn't know why. But we come to learn very quickly that he is there to essentially save planet Earth, and bits and pieces come back to him throughout the story. I will say, the further that you get into this book and the better that we get to know Ryland and his journey and his purpose out in space, I just felt like the story really, really grew, and also the audiobook experience became a lot better because there are things that we kind of get exposed to as the story progresses. I'm not going to say what they are because I do believe that it's a spoiler, but there are things that we kind of get introduced to as the book goes on that just made the audiobook absolutely stunning. And so I really did prefer the audiobook version of this. I thought it was so good and so fun. And also this feels very poignant because the film came out not too long ago. And so if you guys are like, oh, I'm the type of person who wants to read the book before I see the movie, I am with you. We are one, and that's what I did. So highly recommend. It's good in all forms, but the audiobook was lovely. Book number 2 is The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop. I personally am a huge Gilmore Girls fan. I'm obsessed with Kelly Bishop. And so when I heard that she had a memoir out, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to read this book. I will say right now that this memoir is not only about Kelly Bishop's experience getting cast in Gilmore Girls. I do feel like the title sort of gives it that impression, but really she's walking us through her life as an actress and her life as a dancer and a singer. And so we hear about each of these different chapters of her life. When she was on Broadway, she won a Tony, she got cast on like television shows, Dirty Dancing, films, and of course, ultimately Gilmore Girls, which is, I feel like, what really popularized her as an actress. I really liked hearing everything that went into getting her to where she was when I got to know her, essentially, like in the Gilmore Girls show. But obviously she had such a full and incredible life leading up to that show. And so kind of getting all of those pieces filled in really, really resonated with me. I loved it so much. And so I think if you're a Gilmore Girls fan, this book will be so fun for you. And if you're not a Gilmore Girls fan, it's just really interesting. Kelly Bishop has had a fascinating life that I absolutely loved learning about. And the reason I'm recommending the audiobook is Kelly Bishop is the voice actor for this story. So she is reading us her story. And if you know her, she has a very iconic voice. Like you hear 2 words out of her mouth and you know exactly who she is. And she just has this like spunky, fun flair. And I loved hearing her story right from her lips. Like it was just so lovely. So this one's great. And if you're going to read it, I really think the audiobook is 10 times better than the physical book. Book number 3 is Beartown by Friedrich Bachmann. This is a series that I have been so good about reading the physical version and the audiobook, and I like literally can't decide. I think I do prefer the audiobooks, which is kind of crazy. I don't feel like this is the kind of series where normally I would prefer the audiobook, but I love them literally so much. And in this story, we are following a bunch of different characters in this really small town in the far north, covered in ice and snow for most of the year, and they just love ice hockey. It's like the one thing that brings this town all together and then completely breaks them apart as well, because so much just rides on their local ice hockey team. It's like a high school boys team. And so we jump from character to character to character to character, and we get an inside look at how each of these different characters is handling the same sort of situation. This is a very emotional, a very intense book series. The series is 3 books long. I've read the first 2, and I do plan on reading the 3rd one as soon as I can. It's just peak summer where I live, so I just haven't read the last one yet. But I do find that with myself, sometimes when books are really, really sad, really, really hard hitting, I have a hard time picking them up because I know how they're going to make me feel. But with an audiobook, it feels like less work. All I have to do is press play, and then the story is told to me, and I don't feel like I have to do quite as much emotional work of like sitting myself down to consume that book. And so that's why I really like the audiobooks of this series. I just feel like sometimes if it's up to me and my own free will, I have a hard time picking up these books, but audiobooks make it so accessible, and the performance is so good. So if you're like me and you saw this book just like literally everywhere on the internet, YouTube, TikTok, Bookstagram, and you're like, I want to get into that series, but I'm scared of like feeling my feelings, I really do recommend trying the audiobook. And then maybe once you're kind of far into it, or like you've gotten, I don't know, 25%, you could switch back and forth. I'm a big switch back and forth kind of girl. I do both for this series, as I said before, and the audiobook is just stunning. I really love I think it's a woman who does the whole series. It's so fantastic. If you guys happen to be looking for new books to add to your TBR this season, I did want to let you all know that I run a mail club for readers where I do just that. Every single month, I send my subscribers a cute little envelope with a bunch of bookish paper goodies inside, including my favorite item, which is a bookish newspaper. A bookish newspaper where I write to you guys about 6 books coming out that month that I think you guys should keep on your radar, in addition to a few other articles just related to things that are going on in the literary world right now. Everyone also gets a cute little bookmark. This is the one from May. May had some bonus goodies. I don't usually do this each month, but I collaborated with an artist named Jaslyn, and everyone got a beautiful little bookish print and 2 super, super cute bookish stickers. I love surprising the besties with like little extras every so often. I think it's so fun. And then everyone also gets a personal letter from me written on something bookish, something reading related, and finally a word game sheet where you get to do different word games and activities. I've done crosswords, word searches, all of that kind of thing. So if you happen to be looking for a more meaningful way to connect offline and something that comes to your mailbox every single month that is going to encourage you to pick up a book, pick up something that isn't a phone, that doesn't have a screen, and just connect with other readers from all over the world, I would be so lucky to have you. This is open internationally at no extra cost to you guys. So I'm going to link my mail club in the description box down below. I would literally absolutely love to have you. It is so much fun, and I think I'm going to leave you guys with that. Let's jump into the rest of the audiobook recommendations. You guys know me, I love doing a big diversity of genres in my videos. And so the next book that I want to talk about is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I really enjoyed this first book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy when I read it for the first time. I read it probably 3-4 years ago in there. Like it's been quite a while since I read the first book, but I'm such a huge fan and lover of the films. And so I was like, okay, eventually I need to like circle back and read the rest of this series. And actually just last month, I finished the second book in the series, which is The Two Towers. And I read this book completely physically. I did not use audio at all. But for The Two Towers, I actually listened to that one entirely on audio. And I am going to say it, I really, really preferred my audiobook experience of listening to this series over my physical read. The experience of the audio is so immersive. The voice actor just does such a good job giving each character their own very specific voice. And like if you know this story, you have characters like Frodo and Sam who are on this big epic adventure, and they meet this character named Gollum who's kind of like, I'm not even going to describe Gollum. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. And he has like a very specific, like scratchy, creepy, eerie voice. And the actor does Gollum and just like everybody so, so well. And so it felt like I was watching a movie in my head. And this book, it's so iconic. It feels kind of almost silly to get into the plot of it. But we are watching a young hobbit named Frodo Baggins basically go on this huge quest adventure to get rid of a very powerful ring. And it's very iconic, and the audiobook is fantastic. And I do think I will be finishing this series on audio because I did just prefer the audiobook. Definitely pick these up if you haven't already. Number 5 is a book I have not talked about in a while, and so I wanted to bring it back for 2 reasons. 1, I just absolutely love it, and 2, it is one of the literal best audiobooks I've ever listened to in my entire life, and that book is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have read so many of this woman's books. It's not even funny at this point, but this is one of the first books that I read by her, and it was the first book I listened to on audio. And this book takes place in the 1970s following this rock band and how they got their fame and how they got their start. And what's really, really cool about it is the book is written in an interview style, and each of the characters in the book gets interviewed. And so when you're listening to the book on audio, each character has a different actor. And so it again just makes it feel so alive. And it's not just like 2 actors where you might see in a romance book where there's like your MMC and your FMC. No, it's every single character in the band has a different actor, and it's just so lovely and so fantastic. And I just distinctly remember doing my makeup in the mirror while finishing this audiobook and literally just crying, and I was like, no, I should not be crying right now, but the audiobook just moved me so deeply, and I love it. This is definitely my favorite TJR audiobook. I've read so many of her books, but if I'm going to pick one of them to listen to on audio, it's this one. And then probably second to this is Atmosphere. That was featured in my first video in this series. So I love this book and I love it on audio, and I really feel like you will too. Number 6 is Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari, and I love all things humanity, anthropology, history. It is one of my favorite things. If you guys don't know, I actually started a different channel on YouTube where I literally made videos about my college major, about anthropology every single week, and I just love all of that. And so Harari is really famous for his nonfiction books that he's written about human beings. And so the first one that I read by him was Sapiens, and it follows our lineage like through thousands of years of evolution and how we kind of got to be where we are today. Homo Deus is like the history of humanity, but like a future version. So it's analyzing where our species is headed based on everything that's happened leading up to where we are now. So it's sort of a continuation from Sapiens, but you don't need to read Sapiens first. It's nonfiction. It's just like a lot of information. Harari is a very, very good writer, a very convincing writer. I just love the way that he looks at the human species and like questions different directions that things could go in. And this was a book that I listened to on audio primarily just because I didn't have the book. I think if I had the physical book, I would have read it physically. I read Sapiens physically, but I just didn't own it, and it was available to download on Libby. And so I downloaded it, I listened to the audiobook, and I absolutely loved it. It was like, honestly, the listening experience felt like a podcast. Like every time I would go on a walk, I just felt like I was learning and picking up new things. And I felt very captivated by all of these real things that affect like just humans in general. If you're like me and you find like humanity and history and futuristic things interesting, I really think this is a fun one. And if you're intimidated, listen to the audio. It's really good. Number 7 is Killers of the Flower Moon by, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the author right now, but it will be on the screen. This book is so out of my normal type of book to read. But again, it's one of those things where I just kind of scroll on my library app, and it's like my favorite kind of scrolling to do. I scroll on my library app. I'm like, oh, what's available to listen to right now? And if there's like a popular book that I've heard about, I'll just kind of download it and start listening to it. And this is one of those books for me, and I absolutely loved the audiobook. This book takes place in the 1920s, and we're following the Osage Indian tribe, who essentially their land was on a bunch of oil, and so they became like some of the richest people in America overnight. Like it's in Oklahoma, and they just like realized that they had so much oil where they lived. But then people like started dying. This is all 100% a true story, by the way. This is not like a fictionalized retelling. This did actually happen. When I first made videos about this book, I was like, oh, this is like a retelling. It's not. Like it is a nonfiction book, but it's told like a story. So it reads very, very quickly, and it's very fast paced. People in this tribe started dying, and they realized that they were getting murdered, all surrounding the like wealth and the oil and this like crazy change that was happening overnight, essentially. And this all is happening concurrently with the forming of the FBI in the United States. And so the newly formed FBI goes in to investigate what's going on with the Osage Indian group. And it was just so interesting and so fascinating. This one I remember finishing. It's so funny. I like remember where I finished so many audiobooks, which was just kind of a random experience, but I distinctly remember driving and moving to Texas. Like I was driving from LA to Dallas with my boyfriend, and we were listening to the audiobook in the car. He had already read it, but like I was listening to it for the first time and finishing it in the car, and just my jaw was on the floor as I'm like basically driving towards where all of this took place. It was crazy. Really, really good. Highly, highly recommend this audiobook, even if it's a little out of your comfort zone. I don't read a ton of nonfiction. I also really don't read a lot of mystery, thriller, murder stuff, but this was great. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And again, it's all true, which is like makes it even freakier and scarier and more impactful. Number 8 is Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. This is actually a recent read for me, and I did want to preface this book with like a little bit of an asterisk because I actually didn't love this book. Like I transparently rated this probably a 3-star in that range. Like it was good, it was fun, it was enjoyable, but the audiobook experience of this book was absolutely fantastic. The narrator is Meryl Streep, and I just think she was the perfect woman to cast to tell us this story. And there are a lot of people who absolutely love this book. It's very highly rated, very well loved. And so I did want to include it in this video because while I didn't personally connect with the story, the audiobook was phenomenal. Like it was just done so incredibly well. And so in this book, we're following our main character, Laura, and she is, I don't know, probably in her 50s if I had to guess. And her 3 daughters have come home because it is the pandemic, and they all live on an orchard. And so her daughters have all come home, and they learned that their mom, Laura, when she was young, dated this guy named Peter Duke, who presently is like a very famous celebrity. And the daughters are like obsessed with Peter Duke. So they're like, please tell us the story of how you dated Peter Duke and like how that all happened. And when you were like a young actress, how did you go from being an actress to now owning and working on a farm? Like, can you please just kind of walk us through that whole story? And so the book is told in 2 different timelines where you have Laura young falling in love with Peter Duke, that whole story, and then the present day with her daughters and kind of what they're going through and all of that kind of thing. And it's just a really sweet story. And again, Meryl Streep is just the perfect person to tell this story. And so, yeah, whilst I didn't like connect with the narrative really or the characters really, I think there are so many people out there who would. And this is just a very popular book. And so I'm not even hesitating to include it in here because I'm so glad that I listened to this on audio. I mean, who doesn't love Meryl Streep, right? Ugh, iconic. The next book I am so excited to talk about. I feel like I'm kind of spoiling my wrap-up video that's going to be coming in the next couple weeks. But you guys know that I have a very tumultuous feels dramatic, but I have a very complicated relationship with cozy fantasy. The reason being, I love fantasy, but sometimes when it's a cozy fantasy, I get really bored. I just have a hard time keeping attention with those kinds of books. But I learned that when I listen to the audiobook version of a lot of cozy fantasies, I literally love them because I can listen to it and it's very atmospheric, and I can do some of my other favorite hobbies like crocheting or walking, working out, painting, like whatever. Like I can do any of my hobbies while listening to it, and all of a sudden I love them. That was my experience with the Emily Wilde books. I read the first one physically and didn't love it, but I was absolutely obsessed with the next two books in the series because I listened to the audiobook, and it like kind of transformed how I feel about the genre. That was a very strong build up to the next book that I want to talk about, which is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. Guys, this book is a Regency cozy fantasy where we're following our main character, Dora, who at the beginning of the book, this like evil fae creature guy comes and basically takes half of her soul. And so she can only feel half of her emotions, which kind of makes her very awkward. And she can't really figure out a lot of social cues because she lacks things like fear and embarrassment. Like literally half of her emotions are gone and torn away. Like I said, it's a Regency. And so it's all of the women in their like dresses trying to find a match. And so Dora and her cousin kind of go on this adventure where they're trying to find the other half of her soul. They want to heal her. And the audiobook was so good. It has like the accents and the descriptions of the balls and it was just so good on audio to the point where I'm like, wow, I need to check out the next book in this series from my library because the audiobook was just that good. And I just absolutely had such a good time with the audio. Again, I think I would be bored if I read this physically, so I don't know what to tell you. Like this could be really good physically. I just loved the audiobook. And again, it's just like the Regency accents and the feeling of it was elite, top tier chef's kiss. This one was so fun. And then book number 10, the final book that I have to talk to you guys about, and the book that I think is just 10 times better over audiobook, is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This is another very recent read for me. I read it for the first time. I know that this has been around for quite some time now, but I had to read this book for my book club, and I probably would not have picked it up had my book club not forced me to pick it up. I actually really enjoyed it. In this story, we're following a group of 6 thespians, 6 theater kids who go to this very elite conservatory where each year they perform different Shakespearean plays. Like they're very entrenched in the Shakespearean theatrics, like that kind of thing. And this is dark academia, so something bad happens. There's a bit of a mystery that needs to be worked out. And the audiobook was so great. I really do wish that I read this book in the fall time. So if you're like looking for an audiobook right now, I would say maybe don't pick it up unless you're in the Southern Hemisphere, then please be my guest. The audiobook just felt so like dark and cozy, and the voices were so perfect for each of the different characters. And I was always looking forward to the next time of day that I had a gap to listen to this. As I said at the beginning of this video, I don't really have those instincts that are like, ooh, I can't wait to listen to my audiobook. I get that with physical reading all the time. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to like end the day and snuggle up and read my book. But the instinct that I lack is like, oh, I can't wait to go on a walk to listen to my audiobook. I can't wait to crochet so I can listen to my audiobook. And this was a story where I was actively looking forward to the next sort of mindless activity that I had in the day so I could listen to this. And it was just so fantastic. I had a few girls that I talked to in my book club say that they read both. I read both, like physical and audio, and they all preferred the audiobook version, which I found to be really interesting. So, and I did too. I read it e-reading version on my Kindle and audio, and I definitely preferred the audio. Those are the 10 books that I have to talk to you guys about today that I think are just so much better on audio and I think you will absolutely love. I am so happy that I got to make a part 2 to this video. If you guys want a part 3, I actually have enough books left to talk about where I think I could squeeze one more video out of this series. I'm literally not going to give you guys book recommendations unless they're like elite, quite literally the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. So if you want a part 3, it'll probably be the last part in this series unless I like read a bunch more books so I could continue this series and find like a bunch of other good ones. Please let me know. Please leave that in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you. And if you made it all the way to this point in the video, comment down below the little headphone emoji. I'm like, oh, I bet I said that last time too. But yeah, comment down below the headphone emoji so I know who made it all the way here. And of course, if you guys are interested in signing up for my meal club, I would absolutely love to have you. That would be so much fun. I'm going to have all of that information linked in the description box down below. And I think that's going to be it from me. I hope you guys are having the best day and the best reading month, and I will see you on Saturday for my next bookish upload. Bye!